So I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired of these mother flipping Skrulls on this mother flipping Earth. We're covering Secret Invasion episode 1. Check us out. Yeah. All right. I like to open this up with a laugh. Let's try this again. This is going to be welcome back to Winter Wolf's Den for Secret Invasion episode 1, take 2. Due to unforeseen technical difficulties and chronological difficulties, this all but exploded in our faces yesterday to the entertainment of millions of people around the world. But we persevere, we press on, we don't stop. King Z, welcome back. You know what we're here to do.
Yes, we are. We're here to talk about some Secret Invasion. But first off, I'd like to welcome you all back. It was my issue yesterday, so we're giving you a recorded version. We came back the next day to re-record because this is important to us because we want to get our thoughts out there and we want to see what your thoughts are on our thoughts. So let's get started. What do you think?
Dude, here we go. Again, I'm going to just reframe what we were going on a little bit yesterday. We're going to talk over the cool graphic that we got going on. I wanted to go into this show as objectively as possible because, as you know, personally, I'm going through great lengths to kind of untrain myself for seeing woke boogeymen and everything in pop culture that we watch. I'm really, really trying to apply myself here. And I'm happy to say that thus far through the first episode of the 6th Marvel Disney Plus, I think we're 5 or 6, something like that.
5 or 6, right? Yeah. It's been
a
few,
half dozen somewhere. It's more than a handful, probably. You count them up, right? And so far, so good. I think that they're trying to tell an old school Cold War inspired, but in present day, because this is post the blip, so it's 2025 or whatever it is in Marvel. It's not exactly present day to us. But, they're doing some spycraft stuff, and I like that. I think you and I are in the minority of folks that we made the connection yesterday. We enjoyed Andor for what it was, with a different kind of pacing and a different story that wasn't, blasters and stormtroopers and Skywalkers and X-Wings. It's a little different,
Yes,
and we were, you know what I'm saying? And we were all about that. And I think so far through the first episode of Secret Invasion, we're getting something a little different. I mean, we can get right into it. Right off the rip, the tone of the show is just completely different than anything I've seen in Marvel so far. And I've checked out at least 2 or 3 episodes of all the series that they had. I watched Ms. Marvel and She-Hulk through to completion. I checked out really early on Hawkeye because I think I just wasn't into that show at all. But this show here, the first episode, I thought felt like the opening act of a Marvel movie. It felt like the opening act of something like Winter Soldier. You know what I mean? It was some dark and gritty back alley secret agent stuff going on. No jokes, no toilet humor, no kicks to the balls of security guards or, pithy one-liners during combat or anything like that. Like, they get into it.
Yep, they do.
And
I know you
yesterday had a lot to talk about there. Yeah, tell us about it. Because I know you really dug that first segment.
That first segment, I mean, it went straight into a cold open, so you didn't have like your intro or anything like that. It went straight into a cold open when we got in Martin Freeman. We know his name now. We had looked it up yesterday.
Yeah, it's Bilbo, but it's really Martin Freeman. Yeah, exactly.
Playing Agent Ross once again.
Yep.
And he's coming through. He gets a mysterious phone call. The phone call makes him pull his gun and start, sneaking around. Comes to what looks like a safe house for like the CIA or some type of operative. And this guy starts breaking down what's going on. And it throws you right into the story of where we are at this point in the world. Is that the Skrulls, which were introduced in Captain Marvel, and they are introduced throughout the cinematic universe. And I wanted to go look back at some of the comic books that they had about the Skrull and the Secret Invasion, which was a comic book run. And I come to find out there are 98 comic books. I mean, just check out this video here that I have. These are some of the covers of the comic books that cover this story. 98 comic books from 2004 to 2007 covers the Secret Invasion of the Skrull. Now, there are major... so in the MCU world, because we all know the Marvel is like different worlds, different types of comic books, different worlds.
Yep.
In this universe, is that their home planet was destroyed or taken over by aliens, and they needed a new home world. Some of them have come to Earth to start living because they can look just like us, act just like us.
The shapeshifters, right?
Yep. And you'll never know if they were living amongst you or not. But the Fury and Danvers promised them a new world, and so far have not lived up to that promise.
We're talking about a 30-year agreement because that all. Remember, Ms. Marvel, even I'm not Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel, even though it came out in 2019, predates just about all the the Avengers movies in Phase 1, Phase 2, because it took place in mid 1990s in their world. So Nick Fury and Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel here, are basically 30 years deep into this arrangement where they said they were going to get the Skrulls a backup homeworld after the Kree booted them. I think it was from their world. So that's our frame of reference for how that's going down.
And based on their failed, it grew a new splinter faction of the Skrulls that are going like, we want Earth as our home planet, and they're going to make it happen. And he starts talking about all these little minor conflicts, as we refer to them in the military, brushfire wars. Like somewhere like rebels in the Tundra, and like Argentina fighting Uruguay, and then Uruguay fighting the Philippines, based on terrorist attacks. And if we all remember, World War I was started from a terrorist attack.
Yep.
An assassination from a terrorist group called the Black Hand is literally what started World War I. So I think that they dive into a lot of history into this type episode, because this type of storyline can be seen throughout the world today. I mean, just look at the Kurds. The Kurds have been fighting for their own homeland for a while. Because if you look at the map, you have Iraq and Turkey, and then you have this little circle area in there, what they refer to as Kurdistan. It's where the Kurds are from, but it goes over borders, some into Turkey and some into Iraq. They too have resulted into terrorist attacks against Turkey mostly to get their own land. So this is kind of that same type of story. They've reverted to terrorist type activity to start getting their own planet.
Yep. And see, this is where we were talking about yesterday before we got into the details of the show. One of the things we were looking at when they're pulling from real world examples that they want to draw, certain moral messages from, or social messaging from real world examples. You can tell me a fictional story being inspired by real world events, and as long as you keep it subtle and nuanced and well written, and don't beat me over the head with with the side you think is correct in the conflict or morally justified, I'm happy to hear any damn story you want to tell me. Like, I'm good for that. Not everything needs to be as even though it was great, as cut and dried, black and white as the original trilogy for Star Wars, where Empire bad, Rebels good. We didn't need to get into the weapons manufacturers make both TIE fighters and X-wings, and it's basically globalist capitalists that are running the war against we didn't need any of that. Like, it was beautiful for its simplicity. Having said that, there is room to tell a more complex but nuanced story about a displaced people that need a home, who were doing all the right things, but another side hasn't lived up to the arrangement, so now an extremist faction has grown. It's cultivating its youth into hating its former hosts. There may be messaging that's forcing them into the fringe of society, because I think that's one of the things we enjoyed most about the first episode, is just the nature of where they're hiding. Their base is pretty cool, just because they've woven it into an understanding of the world that's established with the comics and how the Skrull work. They're immune to radiation, to like radioactivity. So they've taken it upon themselves to hit up little bases around Russia where they know hypothetically people can't detect them. Like, I don't know, we could fly an aircraft over and probably see 60 Skrull kids playing soccer, but that's neither here nor there. They're at a place that's remote enough where people just won't go arbitrarily or accidentally, is the point. They're in hiding, which is kind of cool.
And they chose Russia because in this storyline, Russia has the most abandoned nuclear sites in the world. But before we get too deep, let's refine these people that there will be spoilers. There are spoilers, there are spoilers, there are spoilers.
Yeah. There's going to be absolutely spoilers, up to and including the death of a major character. Guys, if you haven't seen the show, I think King Z might be on to something, reminding me to run that spoiler warning. Maybe dip out, go watch the episode. It's about 50 minutes long when you cut out the credits, things like that. And I think it's a worthwhile 50 minutes. But having said that, dude, why don't we talk about pacing first before we even get into what goes on, just on scene specifically? Because I think one of the complaints that I'm seeing around the internet, it's creepy how much and/or comparison this show is getting. Because one of the number one things I've seen as a complaint so far, outside of typical it's not the same as the source material thing, and I'm not an expert on Secret Invasion. If somebody out there is telling me they've read all the material and this is just going to be Secret Invasion more or less in name only, then that guy knows. I mean? I defer to that person's authority. Having said that, since I have no vested interest in that, I can't register that is an authentic complaint for me. But the one I can register is pacing, because we saw a lot of people piece out of Andor, you know, 2.5 episodes in, because it didn't get right into lightsabers and TIE fighter dogfights instantly. A lot of the criticism I'm seeing for this show was that somehow this first hour dragged and nothing happened. Somebody actually told me in conversation earlier, nothing happened in this hour. And I said, bro, you must have watched a different show. And then I rattled, dude, you should have been there. It was a hilarious conversation. I was like, there were like 3 fist fights, a foot chase, a couple of shootouts,
3 bombs going off.
Dude, 3 or 4 bombs going off, and the death of a major character. Like, the fuck else do you need in an hour? You know, like, there was world building, there was relationship establishment, there was a web. Fury and the MI6 chick, Talos and his daughter, the terrorist leader and his people, Fury and Agent Hill. I mean, like, pacing was a problem for someone? Dude, I don't know. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong at all. I think that this was a good pace show because it did have some lull parts, but it was after a big high. You have to bring it back down. You can't just stay at the top. This isn't Barney Stinson's party mix. We got to go up and we got to bring it back down and come back up, not just stay up.
It's a line graph that has like jags. You know what I mean? Like, it's up, dip a little, resolve, up, dip a little, resolve, up, and then skyrocket and then fade out. You know what I mean? Like, and I thought they did that, to your point. I mean, we had great tension building, character building scenes. Like I said, the one between him and Hill about him having a crisis of faith, and that's why he left after he being returned from the blip. We get that conversation. We get his conversation with the British woman who's like the head of MI6 or a power player at MI6. Also good. The Talos and the daughter scene, also good.
Yeah, just because it's a down scene doesn't mean it's a bad scene. It just means that it's low tension at that point.
Yeah, I didn't get it at all when the dude said that. Yeah, go ahead.
And I mean, we've talked about this a lot, about screenwriting and stuff that we notice. If you looked at the way screenwriting is supposed to go, you're supposed to have an up scene, high intensity, and then a down scene. You don't usually have back-to-back high, or low, and each one of those is a scene. And then within the scene, there's high parts and low parts. So that's just how you get an audience in, because you can't have their heart rate going 135 minutes for 55 straight minutes. You have to have it come down, and then you have to tell a story as well, not just unless you're just want to just shoot people for 55 minutes and like watching someone play Call of Duty. I mean,
you literally just stole the thought, dude. I was going to say, you're basically a video game at that point. And I think that this is a common criticism in a lot of the fiction that's out there just in print these days, is a lot of people have lost the subtle art of being able to tell a story by way of, we've lost that ability to have that connective tissue in between the set pieces that happen. And it's, it just usually devolves into this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. But there's never, shows like House of the Dragon and Andor get it right. It's what happens in between the dragon battle in the sky that makes the show great. Any asshole can render dragons dueling, but it's who set up the kid to fly the dragon knowing that he wasn't going to be able to mentally handle the duel, and then he dies, and then you know what I mean? The fallout. That's why it's a basic story block. It's action, reaction. Yeah. Action, reaction. Without these things, it's like you said, it's a fucking sizzle reel. It's how many car chases can we throw into 60 minutes with how many running gun fights, how many segments of Captain America fist fighting 30 Nazis before I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna check my phone now because this shit's all pretty point. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want that, and I don't think the show is primed to give us that. I think it's off to a good start pacing wise.
And I think they're trying to play a lot into the lack of attention span that most people have now as well. Yeah. I mean, 30-second videos are the prime and rage on YouTube and Facebook and stuff like that. Now, there are some really talented people who do it, who tell a good story in that amount of time. I mean, Vine was the original TikTok, and they had some really great stuff on Vine, especially comedy-wise. But it also is like they're playing into people's lack of attention span, and you see that when they complain about nothing happening. Well, story has to happen.
Yeah, and quality story takes time. Like, the issue of pacing dragon sounds like a D&D reject from like a dragon pantheon. Dragging pacing happens in shows like the typical CW schlock, I think, Where what's my common complaint with these shows? Oh, there's feelings at the table, then there's feelings walking down the hallway, then there's feelings getting into the car, then there's feelings on the way to the mall, and then there's, but really it's just people talking about how they feel. That doesn't move the story forward unless it's in pivotal points where revelations are made. You know what I mean? Where promises are made to other characters about things that will happen, where we find out what people are expected to do or how they're expected to behave. That's not like, that's good stuff. Those are good examples of when pacing is supposed to be decelerated, like you were talking about, so we can understand the foundational makeup of what the characters are trying to do. You know, just gabbing around. An episode of Friends could not have been the six of them at Central Park for 22 minutes.
No.
Would not have worked. As funny as that show could have been back in the day, you needed to get them out into the hallway. You needed to get them back in the living room where they were having the conflicts that they had. Ross showing up to Rachel's job and making a fool of himself, Joey making a fool of himself, you know, at an acting gig. Those are things happening. It's not just them sitting around over a cup of coffee saying, oh, you know, I didn't get that job again. Oh, well, that's not how it worked. But aside from pacing, let's get into some of the deets of the show. Really cool spycraft stuff, like we said at the beginning, the sequence with him, with Freeman just kind of walking down the alley, getting to the safe house. The crazy agent that kind of was about to blow the lid on the conspiracy doesn't make it out. He's killed by a Skrull impersonating Freeman, which was kind of cool. He ends up dying when Talos shows back up and gets in a foot chase with him that you don't know it's Talos until he reveals himself to Hill, who's there to pick up who she thinks is Freeman. So it's got all those hallmarks of like the old Mission Impossible rubber mask. Oh, nobody's who you think they are kind of thing. And I think they really hit that. But I know we were talking yesterday, the MI6 scene in the woman's office gets me because I love it. Because I was suspicious, as you know, that it was going to be another example of the archetypal male character, super spy, getting dunked on, you know, Bond style, Luke Skywalker style DLJ. And I don't think they're going that route. Because as he gets bagged and thrown into the van and brought to the MI6 chick, they have their little conversation, and she goes, oh, you know, I think you lost a step. You know, the old Nick would have seen my guy's coming 10 paces away. And he kind of gets this real wry grin, like, it's like, yeah, I let them take me so I could get in here. And I'm like, oh, all right. But then, you know, he's not just running his mouth to, like, run his game, because when he's first getting into the office, he's messing around with the antique record player. He's doing this and that, and she's talking. And then in one quick motion, he touches a statue with his back to her so she can't see, and he's laying down like a high-tech spy cam on like the statue's eye so he can monitor shit. And we see that come up later in episode. Yeah, you know, where he's actually getting intel from eyes in the building that he laid down. So Fury he's still got this. You know, you pointed out the thing with the knee and the limp. So he might not be physically able to throw down like he used to, but my man's brain is still all there. And I thought that scene was dope as hell. I really did.
Yeah, I mean, they played into like him being the older spy, like the elderly, and like with him playing chess with Agent Hill later. He was talking about. So he came back after this to a bar, and some people did, you know, take offense of him coming in. He buys them shots and everything, just, you know, played over. And then he was like, "How do you think the Cold War didn't go hot? It was spies like me buying shots for people like them." And she's like, "It goes, what did she say?" She was like, not spies like, or he said spies like us. He said spooks like us. And she's like, not spooks like me. He's like, spooks like me.
And she's like, you can't say that. And he's like, I can say that. You know, so you got like the double meaning out of the joke, which was pretty funny. And that's what I mean, dude. That's not the funniest thing you've ever seen in a show, but it's also not stupid Marvel humor that's based around like slap my knee, haha, like old man fell out of the chair because he's old, something. You know what I mean? And it's not She-Hulk stupid where after 15 seconds of being She-Hulk, she's out hulking Bruce Banner Hulk. You know, like, no. Remember, Hill tried to give him the, you need to make sure you're back with it, old man thing. And he replies as he's wont to do, and then spends the rest of the episode generally making good spy decisions and relying on good intuition. You know, the part where they run up on the person that's responsible for brokering the deal for the explosives. Like, he's running that. He's just letting Talos do his thing, doing the investigation. But then, like, when push comes to shove, it's Fury that has to pop a cap in this dude when things get out of hand.
Yeah.
You know, so he's still got that menace mentality, and I thought that was good. But one of the things I know you're a fan of in these shows, along with myself, are the family dynamics.
Yeah.
So bring us up to speed on what's going on with Talos and the new character Gaia, who's his daughter.
Yeah, so you find out that Talos' wife has passed away at this point.
Yep.
We don't know how she died. We do get a hint later that the terrorist group is responsible for her death in some shape, form, or fashion. But they also find out that his daughter's missing, and then that's when we meet Emily Clark's character.
Yep.
Emily Clark is working for the Skrull Rebellion, as I would call them right now.
Yeah, they don't have a name that we're aware of. They're not called
Yeah.
like the Skrull New Dawn or anything like that.
And they don't act as the Skrull either. They're acting as other terrorist groups that are taking
Humans,
credit,
yes.
human terrorist groups taking
Yeah.
responsibility for these actions to cause conflict between humans so they can take over the world as we kill each other.
Right.
Type story. So you see her show up at one of the bases where a guy's looking to go to one of these safe havens for Skrull, where Home in My Own Skin is
it's going to be the slogan.
catchphrase. Yeah, and that's what got
it's going
gets
to be
him in.
this is the way. Yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
And she gives him like homegrown food, like from their home planet type food, and it took to their
Yep.
it took to our ecosystem here on Earth and can grow. So gave him some of that, so he had something he hasn't tasted in years since they lost their home planet. But later you see her, and she's like one of the I wouldn't say number 2, but I would say close number 3, number 4. She's in the inner circle.
She's a lieutenant. Yeah, she's in this. That's a great way to put it, I think.
Yeah, she's in the inner circle. So she goes and she picks up the bomb, and this is supposed to be a dirty bomb set off. We find that out through the eye plant that Fury did.
Yep.
And she picks it up, and Talos and Fury are there waiting for her. They chase her down. She beats up Fury at one point. Because it was Fury. No, it was Hill. It was Hill. She beat up Hill.
Yeah.
She evades Hill while Fury and Talos are doing their little interrogation that goes terribly wrong.
Yep.
And then
goes south quick.
Talos chats up to her and realizes that it's his daughter. And then he's like, why don't you ask the people you worked for what happened to your mom? Because she didn't know her mom was dead. And then, which leads to another point where you find out how deep she really is into this. Where she meets up with her father later, and then she feels like she's flipped. She's back to, Dad's here. He's on the right side. I got to help Dad out. And gives him information about the bombing that's going to happen in a couple days or the next day at Unity Day in Russia.
It was literally the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a big time lapse. Yep.
So they show up and follow her instructions, which they find out is completely bogus.
Yep. Bit of a heel right in the old in the heart of Rue right there. And I went back and I watched that, dude. I totally slept on that yesterday when we were discussing it the first time. Yeah, it was going to be a Winter Wolf point of contention that she reversed roles so quickly and turned back to the good so quickly. No, it was clearly not that at all. It was very much so that that's how she was just going to make the escape, and act like she's on the in. But that does bring me to a kind of a, it's not plot armor, but I guess it's a plot convenience, we'll call it. Talos had this chick dead to rights. Any death that happens from this point forward as a result of her actions, all that blood is on his hands. Like, that's unequivocally true at this point. He had the opportunity to detain her. He disarmed himself when he had her at gunpoint, completely defenseless, and let her go with the bomb. He could have just said, put the fucking bomb down and then go, live to fight another day or whatever. But no, he straight up let her leave custody or attempted custody, and then bad shit happens. But let's jump right into the to the bad stuff happening, because I think that'd be a great place just to wrap up our review of the show and just get some final thoughts, because that shit exploded at the end, literally.
Yeah,
with multiple explosions.
One thing I want to hammer out is, like, when we were back at the Skrull base, we saw them do something that is very Skrull specific, which it plays into the secret invasion of in the comic books. In the comic books, they're able to impersonate the mightiest heroes, the Avengers, and also assume their powers, which I think they could lead into with this scene that they had in the show where they have a guy who was part of a terrorist organization called America versus Russia, or America Blames Russia.
America Against Russia, AAR.
Yeah.
Clever.
And they get one of them. He's like, take his face, and he morphs into him, which we all know they can do.
Yeah.
But then they put him into like this stasis field type thing with this like mind flare thing coming into him, and then he's like, take his mind, and you see where he could take all of his memories, so he could completely impersonate this person. So
with all his memories, his skill sets, everything.
Yeah,
right?
With that ability, I believe they will be able to take heroes' abilities. So that was actually a pretty cool call to a Skrull ability.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things I think that we talked about yesterday when we were talking longer, right before we get into the last big part of the show, I just wanted to mention it again, because you reminded me just now talking about abilities. Do we think this show is budgeted to have appearances by a larger name hero, and who do they have left to pop in? The one you brought up yesterday was Rhodey as whatever War Machine / Iron Patriot suit would be applicable, appropriate to this book's run. I mean, not that they're limited by the book's run. They just probably put him in the silver and red one. I'm sure they won't put him in the Iron Patriot, the blue and red and gun steel one. But I mean, do they have bank to bring in Ruffalo as the Hulk or whatever? I mean, are they going to bring Miss Marvel in and spend money on her goofy looking powers? Like, who else could they logically bring in here? Because you got to remember, this is post Blip in the same timeline. So, Steve Rogers is $1 million. So and we know Chris Evans probably isn't coming back. Did they bring in Falcon, Anthony Mackie? Do they bring in Winter Soldier? Like, who did they bring in besides Rhodey, or is he it? To that point you made about stealing abilities. Because there's no abilities to steal from him. He's got a fucking suit.
Yeah, at this point, I don't know. I couldn't tell based on the opening episode or any of the information I've seen. That Marvel's very tight-lipped on their things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as someone who's worked on the set like that, like they put stuff over the camera on my phone. It was a pretty cool Agent of Shield emblem they put over my camera. So I still have my phone with me, but I couldn't take pictures on set. What I was doing, I had to sign an NDA, so I can't talk about what I did on set. I know what, like all Marvel movies, when you're coming on to them, they all have a different code name, so you don't know what movie you're on. Now, looking at the call sheet, knowing who I'm working with, and seeing interviews, you kind of know what movie you're going to be in.
You could put some pieces together, for real. I mean, for sure. So, I think to get to your point about the show, I think you're right. I think it'll be interesting to see if they actually make good on that. I think as far as that's going to go, because we see shades of it by the end of the episode with how the villain takes on Nick Fury's form after the explosions go off around the Unity Day Festival, whatever it's called. People are getting hurt and maimed. This 6 Ways to Sunday. Gravik is his name, I believe, the lead Skrull that's in charge of the Skrull resistance there, takes on Fury's appearance and then blasts Hill in the stomach. She's dead. Like, she's done. She's out.
Yeah, Hill's gone.
That's the major death we were talking about at the beginning. So she's off the board. But I'm thinking, because he's already demonstrated the ability to be Fury, because all they have to do is see you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think they have to see you. I don't know if it works off a picture or anything else. But if they see you, if they get a visual of you, they can do it. I'm guessing, prediction-wise, they capture Fury at some point, get his mind, and maybe want to do something to get to the president, because you made a good point yesterday about how they've cast it's Dermot Mulroney as the president in this timeline of the MCU on the in MCU film and TV shows. He's the president. I think maybe Fury's going to come back and get in the fake assassination attempt as Skrull Fury, and then Rhodey and real Fury will break it up. I think that's probably where it's going, because if the dirty bomb already went off, if that was it, like, that's not the big crisis for the show. It's not just it's not a Jack Bauer situation, like where they're running against the clock to stop the bomb. Like, what's the next big thing they can do? If the whole goal is to get down with some kind of America versus Russia global thermonuclear war that the Skrull will be immune to, it's have Fury kill the American president as a Russian plant. You know what I mean? And galvanize each side, yada yada, spy shit.
And we have to cut back to the trailer where you had Rhodey was talking to Fury at one point, and he's like, "You're the most wanted man in the world right now."
Right. Oh, dude, I totally forgot about that. So I'm guaranteeing that's where this story goes. Hand to God, forgot about that. And that's 100% how this is going down, because the episode leaves us on that note. It's got Talos grabbing Fury after Hill dies in his arms, and he's pleading with her like, it wasn't me. You have to know. They're getting the fuck out of Dodge, right? But they're in public, and they're in it's not the Western, it's the industrialized world. It's like the modern world. This camera's everywhere. They're going to have seen something that looks like Fury having done it. So whether or not he's innocent or not, people are going to know something that looked like him did it, and they will be looking for somebody that looks like him.
Yeah. And one of the big things, like in the scene where we get introduced to Rhodey and the president, they're talking about like how Fury left Saber. So Fury's been gone since he came back from the blip. I think even if it was real Fury or not at Tony Stark's funeral.
Good point.
This is the first time he's been back on Earth. It's been Talos playing Fury and his wife playing Agent Hill so far, until right now where Fury comes back to Earth from Saber. A lot of people are speculating what Saber is. Saber's a type of sword. So a lot of people are, because there's nothing in Marvel comic books that talks about Saber, but there is something that talks about Sword, which is the Sentinel program for the X-Men. So I wonder,
that's an interesting tie-in,
if this could also launch into maybe an X-Men might show up in this.
That could be interesting, because we keep our ears pretty close to the ground on casting decisions and rumors and things like that, and I don't think I've heard anything official about any of the new X-Men ideas that are coming out. We tend to hear more about Fantastic Four lately. Some of the fake casting rumors, like the Adam Driver, the Mila Kunis. I think Emma Stone was up for a couple of rumors as Invisible Girl for a quick minute. But I haven't heard anything about X-Men. But that would be a nifty little way to manipulate the verbiage there. Saber, sword, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe work them in. But hopefully, I'm not feeling good about Phase 5. I won't get into any more of that. But hopefully, the ship rights itself on the big screen, because I'm ready for more X-Men. Not First Class, not X-Men as kids. But I mean like a 90s animated show, but live action version of the X-Men in their prime, doing X-Men shit against like known villains that hopefully aren't Magneto, that hopefully aren't Juggernaut. You know what I mean? Like, show me some other stuff. There's other stuff out there. Same with Fantastic Four. Like, bring on a proper Doctor Doom for the Fantastic Four to tee off against. Doctor Doom should be the big bad here, not Kang. It should be Doctor Doom. Honestly.
Yeah, I think they're going with a lot of the intergalactic super bad guys just because it's Avengers, and you think if you're teaming up with some of the world's mightiest,
gotta be the big dog going.
Yeah, you gotta be the big dog. But I mean, Doom has done so much, and I mean they need to introduce him because they've already introduced his movie with Secret Wars.
Yep. They're already talking about it, and I think that the Jonathan Majors stuff as Kang the Conqueror, I think that's heading into court soon. If he gets found not guilty, or if it's civil and it's responsible or whatever it is, they're likely going to unload him. I don't imagine they can keep him if he's found responsible, for the allegations. So I mean, that kind of shifts their focus. But dude, that might be another great example of just utilizing circumstance to get out from underneath bad concepts that haven't been executed. Same as the writer's strike. I mean, they have an opportunity here to basically wipe the board clean of anything that wasn't in, medium to late production, and just be like, fuck it. Like, do you think at this point the Blade movie happens? 3 reshoots, Mahershala Ali's like 50. He's not going to want to try and be Blade long term at 50. You may as well just get Snipes at that point.
Yeah.
Just saying. But we're not going to get too sidetracked there. Dude, final thoughts on the show for me, if you don't mind me going first this week. I just wanted to say, I enjoy it so far. I don't see anything in the way of the messaging that I typically get annoyed with the Marvel stuff. So I'm enjoying it so far. I'll say this. Other people online on YouTube that claim to have had, advanced screener copies, because they're much bigger channels than we are at this point. They've seen, I've heard there's been packages of 2 episodes and then packages of all 6. People are saying that it does take a turn for the political, especially with some dialogue between Jackson's character and Rhodey. And it comes down, it may allude to messaging and underprivilege and representation and, stuff that really in a spy show, it doesn't need to be in there. I hope that they're all untrue. I hope the writing holds to a decent level, because outside it's just some kind of weak dialogue here and there. And that bit with Talos letting the daughter go so the show could happen, I enjoyed this, and I'm looking forward to next week. So I would right now, if you haven't jumped in, guys, I would say watch episode 1 and make up your own mind. Don't be swayed by us ever. We're just telling you what we saw. You can watch and enjoy whatever you like. That's our standard disclaimer here. We're not going to judge you. But I would check this show out if you're a fan of the genre of spies and shit.
Yeah, I mean, we liked what we liked for different reasons.
Right.
Everyone likes what they liked for different reasons.
Yep.
Some people want to be part of stuff that they want to be part of. What we're doing is just giving our two thoughts. We're two friends from high school. We met in 1995.
Yep.
Can you think it was that long ago?
Been a minute, dude.
Actually, no. It was before that. I moved in 95.
Yeah, no, ninth grade.
92.
Freshman, right?
No, eighth grade.
Junior high? Oh, it was junior high. That's right.
Because I moved.
They don't even have junior high anymore, dude. It's middle school now. It's crazy.
Yeah. I moved.
Dude, you're right.
I moved there in 7th grade from Germany, and then we became friends the next year, my second year there. I just finished up 7th grade. I think I was there for like the last 3 months of it.
Yeah, that was a hot minute ago. But yeah, dude. So guys, you can like what you want. There's plenty of stuff Kingsley likes that I don't like, and vice versa. We're not going to judge you for it. But my advice would be, and it sounds like you enjoyed the show also.
Oh yeah,
I break down some final thoughts and recommendations.
Yeah, I definitely like the show. We were there talking yesterday about ratings, and like we didn't really want to jump into full ratings. But my rating would be that it has me for next week. Like I'm going to watch. So I love Samuel Jackson. This is a star-studded cast with Martin Freeman, Samuel Jackson, Dermot Mulroney,
Don Cheadle, Ben Mendelsohn, Emilia Clarke.
Yeah, so many people in this.
Everybody on the poster is legit. Everybody on the banner is legit for sure.
So yeah, this could be one of their best shows, and like we've talked about before. And we've put up videos about like how Marvel's even come out like they're firing people. They're talking about like they need to right the ship because they're not liking the way Phase 4 went. And I think they went into Phase 4 without a plan. They planned up to Avengers Endgame, and then they're like, "What do we do now?" And Phase 4 happened, which was horrible. I mean, you had the Black Widow movie. You had
5 years too late.
Yeah, a couple.
Shang-Chi and Eternals.
Shang-Chi, Eternals, and then it ended. I think Quantumania was the first one of Phase 5.
Quantumania was Ant-Man 3 is the first of Phase 5. The end of 4 included Thor: Love and Thunder and Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange 2.
Yeah, so like 5 shows,
but all of the shows,
movies.
though, all of the shows are the beginning were Phase 4 shows because they all took place they started with WandaVision, which took place after Endgame.
Yeah.
So the entire slate of Disney Plus stuff is post Endgame kind of stuff. But I think you're right. I think we're onto something with the ratings idea. Why don't we just do an overall rating at the end of the series?
Okay.
Through 6 episodes, we can just do kind of like a longitudinal study, maybe rank episodes at some point, like a post-mortem of good spy stuff in this one. This was a filler episode. Because, dude, guys, there's only 6 episodes of this show. We didn't even mention that today. This has a short run, and hopefully all of them go like a full 55 minutes because I don't think any justice is going to be served if it gets the Ms. Marvel treatment and you try and do this kind of show with like 28-minute episodes. I don't think it'll work. That will work against it. Unfortunately, because it's Disney and they do the week-to-week thing, we don't get that advanced look at run times like we do for some of the Netflix stuff like Wednesday or Stranger Things when those shows come out in that kind of drop batch, dumping mode kind of format. But yeah, guys, we're going to take a quick break. You're actually hearing this on the recording, and I'm pretending it's live. But we're going to get out of here because we're still going live with Winter's Watch in 15 minutes our time, which is Thursday night at 9:30 Eastern on Winter Wolf's Den.
Also, we were meant to go live with this one. We will be going live for episode 2 Wednesday nights at 9:30 as well. So we'll have back-to-back live streams for the foreseeable future. So
absolutely.
So we hope you all tune in each time and have some fun with us. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our content as we start building our short library as well as our long-term library.
All right. Dude, well said, dude. Get us out of here. I need to go get a drink. Sweet. Remember that? Digging it.